Good morning, developers. If you're new to the channel, my name is Rob, and in this playlist, I am covering the updates to ecmaScript, trying to treat them one at a time. And ecmaScript is the standard for JavaScript, so basically the updates to JavaScript. And if you're not clear on the relationship between those two or want a little bit more detail, I will put a couple links in the description that will help along with that. But I'm trying to handle these sort of one feature at a time rather than an entire release, which can be huge and overwhelming. Today we are going to look at Flat. Flat came out in ES10 or in 2019. And I've got the docs pulled up here. This is MDN, which is what I prefer when I need a lot of detail. But if you click on baseline widely available, it says that it has been available across all browsers since January of 2020. So you should be able to use this with confidence. If the browser has been updated recently at all, of course, you can always add a polyfill if you need to. But Flat is a prototype method for all arrays, which means if you're an array, you have the Flat function available to you. And if we look down here, we'll look at the documentation again here in a minute, but it says the Flat method of array instances creates a new array with all subarray elements concatenated into it recursively up to a specified depth. Okay, it's a really fancy way of saying if you have arrays inside of arrays and you want them to be flattened out into a single dimension, or whatever depth, Flat is ready to do that for you. It used to be nice for code challenges, but Flat will knock it out pretty quickly. I am hopping over to Visual Studio Code here. I've got flat.html open. I'm doing this in the browser because the browser console is much easier to read. I think the formatting is better than trying to look at it in the console, and more people will be familiar with the browser, but you can certainly run it in a node file. There's nothing different between the two. Okay, let's start out by defining an array, and we'll put in there 1, 2, 3. We'll switch over into an array. We'll do 4 and 5, and then we'll put 6 at the end. And I'll space this out just so that you can think about it in a little more clear terms like this. Okay, we've got index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 happens to be an array that has 2 elements in it, 0 and 1. If we come down here and scroll up a little bit so you can see the variable, if we do array1.flat open close, it will not mutate the variable, it will copy and return the new value. So I'm going to make a variable called flat array and set it equal to, grab this thing and run flat on it. And if we console.log, let's do both of them. We will do array1 and we will console.log flat array. Hop back over to the browser here and open it up. So our first one has 1, 2, 3, and you can see that it's got 4 and 5 in there, and then lastly it has 6. After we run flat, this is our new array, and it has flattened it down to where there is just one dimension. That the array that was in there is now gone and replaced with 4 and 5. Okay? Note a couple things here. We'll go back to the docs, but it flattens things in place, meaning it does not append 4 and 5 to the end of the array. It takes them right where they are and puts them in that slot as if that array were stretched out in place. Okay? If we come back over quick, if I drop inside here another array, so I'm going to put in here like that, 6 and 7 and 8, and then I will convert this one down here to 9, so we'll have 9 elements. Come back over and refresh. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3. You can see there's an array there. Open that up. It's got 4 and 5, which has another array, which has then 6, 7, and 8. And then we lastly have 9 down here at the bottom. When we're done here, I don't know if this is the behavior you would have expected, but we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Index 5 is still what it was, 6, 7, and 8, and then 9 is there. So we come back over, it did not flatten the second array, and the reason for that is because there is a second parameter, and I'll put that note in here. Flat takes an optional param of depth, and the way that depth works is it is how many arrays to go down and flatten. By default, it is 1. So we didn't provide anything here on line 20. So it didn't flatten any farther down than that first level. If we put in here a 2, save it, come back over and refresh, you'll notice now it went all the way down. Again, switching it back over to 1, refresh again, it leaves that, that second one alone, the one all the way down here. So it leaves this one alone. Okay, that is the basics of how flat works. If we hop back over here to the docs, scroll down a little bit here, let's just take a quick look. It mentions that we can optionally provide depth. It defaults to 1. The return value is the new array. So again, it does not mutate. It copies the old one with the new values in it. And that is right here. The flat method is a copying method. So it does not alter or mutate the original array. It returns a shallow copy. Okay, so you can make changes to the new copy and it won't affect the old one because it's a full copy. The flat method ignores empty spots if the flattened array is sparse. What does that mean? Well, if we come back over here, I'm going to leave array1 alone and we'll make a new one here. We'll do array2 and we'll put in here a 1 and then a whole bunch of commas. So this would be 2, 3, 4, this would be 5, 6, we'll have a couple more, 7, 8, and then we'll have 9. This is a sparse array, okay? And this is a silly way to create it unless you had a really good reason to. It probably would be something more like this, where maybe you have 1, 2, and 3 in there, and then you grab array 2, and you're going to put in slot 9, the value 9, okay? And if we console.log array 2, come back over and refresh, that's when you see the empty. Node just leaves it, it's just a black space. But for us, there are only 4 elements. It shows a length of 10, even though there are only 4 actual indices, because again, of the way that JavaScript behaves. Other languages aren't necessarily like this. If we flatten this thing, it will remove down to whatever depth we provide. So I will throw in here another array. We'll put in here 4 and 5. Come back over and refresh again. So we got 1, 2, 3, and then we have this array in there, and then we've got 9 at the end. If we console.log, I'm going to do array2.flat. So rather than assign it to a variable, I'm just gonna log whatever it returns. We refresh this, and you'll see it just goes straight down. There's no empty elements. Those have been removed. Those are not copied over. It doesn't preserve that index. So you need to be aware of that if you're going to use flat, it will not preserve any of those elements. Now remember, sparse does not mean that it's undefined. Undefined is a value. It's going to be if that slot is empty for some reason. Okay? So again, if depth is 1, both empty slots in the root array and in the first level are ignored. They won't be copied. Empty slots further down are preserved within the array themselves. It does not mess with anything below the depth. Okay, it's also generic. All that means is you can use it on anything that has a length property and has a this, but it doesn't make any sense because it has to be an array if you're going to actually flatten it. We're going to hop back over here and I want to show you a couple more things. If I make array 3 and we'll put in here 1, we'll follow up with the word hello. We'll follow up with an object. And we'll put in here name, Jim. We'll put age 30, and then I'm going to throw in here a property of languages, which will be an array. We'll put in here JavaScript and Python, and then at the end, we'll do another kind of random array here. We'll do 3, 4, and 5, and then at the end, we'll do a couple random entries, and then we'll throw in true. Okay, so we got just a hodgepodge of stuff here. Let me zoom back out so we can see a little bit more of it. We've got 1 in the first slot. We've got a string in the second. We have an object. That object has an array inside of it. We've got another nested array, a couple empties, and then a Boolean here at the end. So tried to hit just about everything that makes sense. I am going to do const array3 flat, and we'll call flat against that. And I'm going to go down, we'll go down 2 levels. Let's change this to infinity. I was going to put in 5, but let's just go the whole way. If it's a nested array, I want it flattened. And then let's log it off here on line 49. If we come back over and refresh, you'll see that it does not change the object. Flat does not go into object properties. That would mean changing the object, and it only changes arrays. If you wanted to flatten this, you'd have to run flat on .languages as part of that object, because again, it will only work on flattening arrays that are direct descendants. This is not a direct descendant. This belongs to that object. You'd have to run it against that object. Okay? Flat is really useful. It is a utility function. Don't go looking for opportunities to use it. Remember that you have it, and then it will make your life a lot easier. I will see you in the next one.